This is your Macbeth annotation guide, and we're focusing on literary devices. So the learning intention for this video is for you to understand what the literary devices are and what they mean. And your success criteria is that you'll understand what they are, so that in the following video you'll be able to annotate a number of these literary devices, and then in the third video following from that you'll be able to create your own examples of these. Alrighty, so I'm just going to give you a definition off the top of my head rather than anything prepared or any formal definition. Allusions is where you are referring to a text beyond your text. A direct reference of this is what we call an intertextual reference. So if I said Macbeth was reading the book Lord of the Flies by William Goulding, that's an intertextual reference. But if I just alluded to something from the world of another text or made reference to perhaps the title without directly referencing it, then that's an allusion. So for example, if you know Lord of the Flies, an allusion would be Macbeth thought about Banquo and considered him a bit of a piggy. So Piggy is a character from Lord of the Flies, so it's an allusion. If you've read Lord of the Flies, you'll understand the connection or the allusion being made there. When I give you examples of all of the literary devices to get you started, I'll provide you as many allusions as I can directly, because obviously you're not from the same era as Shakespearean times, so a lot of this is very historical and you won't actually catch the references just in and of themselves, so I'll need to point them out to you. Paradoxes is another one where I need to give you another definition to explain what paradoxes is. The simpler form of a paradox is an oxymoron, which is two words that have opposite meanings side by side to one another. A paradox is the same thing but extended, where each aspect of the thing that is opposite or naturally opposed is given its own clause. So an example of an oxymoron would be smart idiot or beautifully ugly, whereas a paradox would be expanding that out, like he or she was as beautiful as a swan, but as ugly as an oxen. So that would be a paradox because it's an extended across multiple clauses oxymoron. Verbal irony links really neatly with foreshadowing and also dramatic irony, but basically verbal irony is when a character says something that we understand to a deeper level or to a other level as ironic due to what we already know or what will happen, will take place in a play or a script. Foreshadowing, which links to the previous, and they often go together. Foreshadowing is just alluding to what will take place coming soon, or giving an indication or a hint as to what might happen. So an easy example of this is Romeo and Juliet, which you would likely have read. All throughout the piece, right from the prologue and throughout, they are telling you what's going to happen. So at no point are you under any illusion that Romeo and Juliet will sort of live happily ever after and things will be worked out and resolved. It's foreshadowed throughout and at many numerous points throughout the play that death is imminent and that they will die. So dramatic irony, if you think of when you were a kid and you went to see children's plays or anything by the Wiggles or that sort of thing, dramatic irony is basically that you as the audience know something that the people in the play do not. So the simplest example of that is when, as a kid in these sort of play scenarios, someone would say, where did character X go? And all of the kids can see that they're right behind the person. So then they, point frantically at the person. As the actor turns around, the person runs around behind them. And that's the simplest and the most basic form of dramatic irony. Obviously there's more complicated forms of that, but that's the basic concept. You know something that the characters do not. Foil is something that you're going to be able to annotate quite easily because foils are the opposite or the mirror image of a character. So you think of Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, you think of two sides of the same coin. You think of a goodie and a baddie, someone strong and someone weak, someone feminine and someone unfeminine, someone kingly and someone unkingly. In Macbeth, as you go through the play, you'll work out pretty quickly who is a foil to who. Soliloquy is easy if you understand sort of the derivation of the word. So sol as in solo, loquy as in talking. So words like loquacious mean someone who talks a lot. So solo loquy means person talking by themselves. A famous example of this would be Juliet on the balcony saying, "Wherefore art thou Romeo?" And another example would be Macbeth, where Lady Macbeth talks about the problems that she's having and the way she sees through these problems. A metaphor is just saying that something is something else. So Mr. Colbert is a giraffe. Anything where you have is or as is typically a simile, but is the word you're looking for, comparing two things that are not necessarily easily compared. They may be quite disparate or they could be quite bizarre in the way that they're being contrasted. Imagery is an easy one. Imagery includes symbol and motif, which are both different forms of imagery, but basically anytime you're using something to represent something else, that's imagery. And we don't have it here, but simile is saying something is like something or something is as something. So Macbeth is like a snake in that he's dodgy, deceitful, and hides in the grass, for example. And the last one is rhyme, and you would think that this is a Shakespearean play, so there'll be a lot of rhyme, but actually rhyme is used very selectively in Macbeth. So when it does occur, you want to be annotating this as a stylistic feature being used by William Shakespeare.